Hi friends, my name's Emma and let's talk spooky stuff. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to my February wrap-up. This is going to be talking about all the films I watched and TV shows I watched in February. But before we get straight into it, some of you ask how I watch so much different content. Well, I do have a trick up my sleeve and it's today's sponsor, Surfshark. I have been paying for Surfshark out of my own pocket for over 2 years now, and they are my favorite VPN service. Not only do they encrypt all of your data, but they protect your identity online, and also they unlock geo-blocked content. So say there's a TV show you want to watch, but it's only available in England, you can just flick a switch and basically you're there, or your computer says you're there, so you can watch what content you want. Surfshark have a 30-day risk-free money-back guarantee, so there's no harm in trying it out for 30 days. And if you aren't happy with the service, you can get your money back, no questions asked. If you'd like to get Surfshark today, definitely use my code SPOOKY for 83% off and 3 months extra for free. That's the code SPOOKY, and you can use the link in the description down below. Thank you so much to Surfshark for helping me watch all this content and for sponsoring my video. And now let's get into it. These are all of the films I watched this month. Okay, let's start at the start of the month. Oh, actually, I do want to point out something that I watched after I did last month's video. I ended up watching a bunch of movies on the 30th, which is quite rare for me to watch a lot of movies after I've done these videos. But I watched The Fallout, and I just wanted to mention this one because I highly recommend it. This movie, I didn't realize what it was about before watching it, and I do think you need to go in knowing what it's about. The film follows a girl who is dealing with the repercussions of a school shooting and the after effects of that. That's why it's called The Fallout. As you can see, a lot of you have seen this, and it looks like a lot of you loved it like I did. I thought it was really powerful and just a very interesting way of telling the story that is quite emotive, and yeah, I highly recommend it. The cast is really good too, and it's got Jenna Ortega, and to be honest, this movie sold me on her. Like, her performance in this is so incredible, and now I'm a huge fan. So, highly recommend this one. It's a drama, so it's not horror, and it's a really hard watch, but I just thought it was beautifully done. So I did want to mention that. The other films I watched at the end of last month is The Runner, which was more of a short kind of film. It's on Shudder at the moment. Honestly, I don't recommend it. Sweetheart, which I hadn't seen. Oh, I think I had seen it before and I forgot I saw it. I watched this with my patrons. It is a creature feature about a woman who gets stranded on an island. It's a pretty straightforward story. But I would probably recommend it if you like creature features. It's definitely worth checking it out. I believe it's on Netflix in some countries. I could be wrong on that. And then I watched The Wolf Hour, which had Naomi Watts in it. And it's about a woman who has mental illness and is stuck inside during the summer of Sam, which is 1977. Yes, it was a very slow movie. I don't know if I'd recommend it, to be honest. But let's jump into this month. That was last month. Number 1, I watched Slapface. I actually did a review on this one. I did a review for Slapface and Hellbender. I watched Last Survivors, and I want to be honest, I was not a fan of this, and I really wanted to like it. It has Alicia Silverstone in it, and I did mention it on my What's Coming to VOD in February, at the start of February. So it's about a father and son who are together in the wilderness after, kind of like in the future, in this dystopian future, and the son, who's just a little bit, I mean, he's in his like late 20s, I'd say, so I mean, he's a man, and he has to go and kind of fend for them, and, you know, when his father gets hurt, really step up to the plate, and he discovers a lot about the world he didn't know. I felt like it was very predictable, very slow, and the acting and dialogue I absolutely hated. I would recommend not watching this one, and I can see by the scores a lot of people felt the same. If it was like meh or not worth it, but I definitely would not recommend watching that, unfortunately. I watched Zola. I can't believe that was this month. It feels like so long ago. I don't know why. You know when you want to watch a movie for so long and you live it up the hype and you know it's just going to be amazing, and then you finally watch it and it is, but which is, I love when that happens. But this has definitely been on my to watch list for way too long, 6 months I'd say. I believe that's when it was first out in Australia. But Zola is an A24 film. It's the story actually from Twitter, which I did not know, that this woman is telling about how she had a falling out with another person, and it's told through tweets, and then they kind of, make the story to go with it, or make, the film to go with it. It's really clever the way they do it. It's really funny, weird, and scary at the same time. It's very real. you know, just normal people based in real life, and there's just something nice and raw about it where it doesn't feel manufactured, even though it's like really over stylized. I would highly recommend it if you like kind of offbeat movies. If you like Florida Project or anything like that, this is like the next step. It's a little bit more polished or like quirky and aware of itself, but it's definitely worth it. I really enjoyed that one and I'd watch it again in a heartbeat. I watched See For Me, which is another film that I talked about. This is an actual horror movie that I talked about, was coming out this month. Oh, maybe it was last month actually. I could be late on this one. So this one is about a visually impaired woman who goes to stay and look after a house. I thought it was going to be quite straightforward, but there are a little bit of like twisty-turny aspects in it, which I thought was really good. And the actress they have as, you know, the person who's visually impaired, she actually is visually impaired, so we love that they're hiring people for these kinds of roles. But it's definitely worth a watch. I don't think it's the best film ever, but it's not as predictable as I thought it was going to be, so that's always fun with these kinds of like sensory horrors, so definitely check it out. I watched The Tinder Swindler. I love saying that name. This is on Netflix. It's a huge movie at the moment. It's a big deal about it. It's like a true crime, I would say. And the title says it all. It's about a man who swindles people on Tinder he's like a con man. And I do recommend it. I gave it 3 because I thought it was like okay. I just felt like once you I had read the article before that it's kind of based on, and once you know that information, there's not a lot more to it, but I do think it's pretty clever the way it's put together, and it's a really easy watch. I mean, it's awful what happened to these ladies, but it feels like it's done in like a more tongue-in-cheek kind of way, or a way to kind of get revenge on him. So in that way, it's not as heavy as a watch as most of these other true crime ones are. Not saying that you can like compare apples and oranges, but if you are into true crime, you definitely should check it out. I watched Tammy's Always Dying. I would not recommend this film. I think it was on Netflix as well. It was definitely on some streaming service. I found it when I was just looking for something to watch quickly, and I kind of regretted my choice. It is about a mother who is just horrible, absolutely horrible, and her daughter has to take care of her. I would say that's like the easy way of explaining it. She's always like claiming that she's going to die, and then, you know, real life catches up with her. But I don't feel like there's a big payoff. You don't like any of the characters, and it's not like in a fun offbeat kind of way. It's like in a serious and strange way. But look, a lot of you guys liked this one. It just wasn't for me. I wouldn't recommend it to you, to be honest. I watched Brazen. Why, you may ask? Oh my gosh, look at all of your reviews. If you don't know, I do follow you back, and I love going through and like looking at everyone, especially when you write stuff. I think it's so funny. This is a definition of a movie that tries way too hard. Definitely, I agree. A Fall from Grace, Deadly Illusion. Oh my god. One week Netflix is dropping a $200 million blockbuster. The next week it's giving stay-at-home mums the next Lifetime-esque movie fix, and that's so true. You are right. This movie is so poorly done. I watched it because it has Melissa Milano in it, and I thought, oh, this is gonna be cute. Absolutely not. It's like she is a writer, and she writes about crime, and so somehow she gets involved in this crime and tries to figure out who the killer is, and she's like dating the detective, and it's just like it's a complete mess. And you're right what you say about like, it was definitely a very like Lifetime kind of movie, and it was just, you're just waiting, you know, when you're waiting for something spicy to happen, not like spicy like erotic, because it definitely has that, but spicy as in, you know, just really pull the rug out underneath you and tell you, oh my gosh, you thought this movie was about this? No, we are really serious. No, this whole movie is so surface level. I could not stand it. Next, we have The Cook, The Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover. I did a whole video on this. It's called the movie that inspired Hereditary, so you'll definitely want to go check out that video if you're interested in that. Okay, this is when I get serious. I watched The Mole. This is a 2-parter BBC documentary. It is about... Oh my gosh, I literally had nightmares after this. It is about a man who plays the long game, the absolute long game, and infiltrates North Korea and becomes buddies and gets connections with like the inner ring in North Korea, and it is the scariest thing I've ever seen. Oh my god, there's one scene in it, I literally could not even breathe watching it. It's one of the most intense, long game, like, I wouldn't say it's well crafted, but like, you're just watching it and you can't even believe what you're seeing is real. This movie gave me more nightmares than any horror movie because it is real and it's happening, and it's a lot. If you do have the opportunity to watch it, I highly recommend it. It is mainly in the UK. It's hard to get your hands on, so if you can watch it, just give it a try and tell me it does not scare you about the world. The end of the world is here. I know this for a fact. Anyway, so I thought I'd watch something a little bit lighter, and I was doing, that thing where I'm watching all of these movies that have been on my watch list for a long time, and I watched Thunder Road because I love Jim Cummings. I think he's just fun, and I don't know, he's quirky in like a cringe kind of way sometimes. I don't know, I just really like him. But everyone was telling me to watch Thunder Road after the Wolf of Snow Hollow, and I finally watched it, and I was like, oh, you know what? After watching the thing about North Korea, maybe I'll watch something that's like, a little bit more lighthearted. I mean, look at this pose on the poster. I mean, that is, a funeral behind him. I didn't really realize that, but I thought it was just going to be silly, and it was more of a heartwarming breakdown story that it is silly because it's like funny silly, but it's also really, it hurt my soul. I did cry watching this. I thought it was just a complete like comedy. So the movie stars Jim Cummings, directed by Jim Cummings, written by Jim Cummings, and it's about a man who just like is losing everything, and he's trying to grasp onto anything, and he is not admitting to himself what's happening. That's basically the storyline. It's pretty straightforward, and it's just like all of these amazingly done one-take scenes that are just so emotive and just, it's a lot. If you do like Jim Cummings and if you liked Wolf of Snow Hollow, check it out, but it is very different to that. Obviously, it's not horror, but he's just a joy to watch. I really liked seeing him in the new Halloween as well. I know probably no one else did, but I loved it. I rewatched Sinister, and I watched this with my patrons. Sinister is always a movie that I think of, I wouldn't say like fondly, but I think of it as like very scary, and then every time I rewatch it, I'm like, oh, it's actually not a lot happens in this movie. I would love to hear what your thoughts are on Sinister. Do you think it's a super scary movie? Do you love it? Do you hate it? I want to know what you think, because maybe I should do a video about it, because it's very much like a film that never faded away. A lot of people talk about it in the community, but I haven't got really a consensus on how we all feel, so I'd love to hear that. I watched Assassins, which, just another North Korean documentary. This one's a little bit more complicated. Highly recommend this one. Oh my gosh. If you're into true crime, it actually takes place in Malaysia, so I just can't even explain these storylines. But if you're into true crime, don't look at this, just watch this movie and tell me it's not one of the most crazy stories you've ever heard. Once you watch this, it's so hard to go back to those kind of crime TV shows that kind of spurt out the same story over and over in a different way, because it's so unique and just so terrifying. I watched A Banquet. So this is a independent horror movie. It's like a horror drama about a woman who stops eating one day. She lives with her mother, and her mother who must try everything in her power to keep her alive. It's a very dark movie, and I'm gonna be real, I was gonna do a review on this, but I found it to be so dark and just really like personally I couldn't write about it because it was just like too close. It's just a very strange feeling film, but it will, if you like those slow gritty psychological movies, you may find it really interesting, and it is an independent horror, so it's really important to support that. I highly recommend just checking it out. It will challenge you, but in ways that are unexpected, I think. It's not for everyone, I will say that. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, look at this. So I did a video that was breaking down Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This became 40 hours of my life one week. And look at all of these. And then I watched it. I'm so sad I did this. I went to the cinemas and saw Uncharted in the middle of it. So it's like Texas. Oh, it's so sad. So I'm not going to talk about the Texas Chainsaw because I've got so many videos on the Texas Chainsaw, including watching the new one. I did see Uncharted. I'm not really an action buff, and I thought this film was fine. I actually thought it was pretty good for what it was. I don't normally watch these kinds of films. It nearly went for 2 hours, which was a huge surprise to me because it didn't feel like it. So that's good. And I don't think I've even seen a movie with Tom Holland in it. So I thought he was great. I don't like when he does the American accent. I think he's much better at the British because maybe I'm used to him in interviews. But I mean, it's a pretty straightforward, fun action comedy. It's exactly what you expect, to be honest. But for that, I don't think it's too bad. And that's saying a lot from me, I think. I watched Come On, Come On. This is an A24 film with Joaquin Phoenix about... God, it's a beautiful story. It's in black and white, and it's about a man who goes through different cities and he's interviewing children about their lives and their future. He's getting these amazing sound bites, and then his sister ends up needing help with his nephew, and so he goes and like starts to have this relationship with his nephew who's young and strange, and I don't know, it's just like him having these interactions as being a single person who does not have a child to, you know, learning that whole curve, and then their relationship. So there's a lot of layers in this film because it's about the future and meeting that up, and yeah, there's a lot to break down. I thought it was good. I was expecting that I would like it a lot more than I did, to be completely honest. But it's still a beautifully done film, very powerful, and probably a film that you need to go back and analyze a bit more. So definitely make time for it when you really want to have a movie that's a thinker that you can dwell on. Maybe not dwell, but you can really analyze and think about later. It's probably better off to see this with someone who feels the same so you can talk about it. I went and saw it by myself, so it might be easier to like kind of break down and you get more out of it when you're really analyzing it. That's how I feel anyway. I watched Mass. Ann Dowd is my hero. I love her. I think she is one of the best actresses that ever lived. But this movie is so sad. So this movie is about 4 people who meet together, and I'm not going to say too much because if you don't know what it's about, it doesn't even say here, so I don't want to say because I knew, but it's more interesting to see it unravel, trying to figure out why they're meeting. So the whole movie is pretty much in one room. Like they do have a setup scene where they're like all kind of setting up this room. But 4 people come together to discuss a tragedy, and its emotions run high. There's like maybe 3 cutaway shots, and other than that, it's just all relying on these like 4 actors, and it's a lot. So get your glass of wine ready for that one. Beautifully done. Just a masterpiece in like filmmaking, or just like holding tension and emotion, and just the raw talent is amazing. So highly recommend that one. You can see everyone else liked it. So if you're into dramas, it is like a slow drama, but if you're into slow dramas that just don't let you look away, this is definitely one you'll want to check out. After that, I watched Alone With You. This is a horror movie that came out this year, actually this month. I wanted to like this one more than I do, as I always say, but it is about a girl who, it's got Barbara Crampton in it, but it's about a girl who's alone in an apartment, and she's waiting for her partner to come home, and then she starts like having doubts about her psyche, about her brain. So it's very much like the reality, is this real or is it a dream kind of thing. And I felt like that was just continued and echoed throughout the film. So for me, it wasn't anything new, but there are some like scary moments in it. But do they make any sense? I don't know. But look, some people liked it, some people didn't. Look, you can see 2 people gave it halves. I gave it a 2. I was actually waiting for it to be over for a lot of it, which is really sad to say, but I've got to be honest. I hate doing that when it's independent, but yeah, I didn't like this film, and I probably wouldn't recommend it to you. Not a lot happens, and not in a particular way that it's interesting either. King Richard. I went and saw this at the outdoor cinemas here, Moonlight. Thank you for having me. What an amazing movie! I knew that it was going to be from the trailer though. It just looks so good. I'm obviously not a sports fan. Look, I watched an action movie and a sports movie, but to be honest, it is more about their journey in, you know, never giving up and all of the obstacles they have to face. It's a beautiful movie. It's really well done. And what I thought was interesting, and I didn't know it before going in, is it more focuses on just them as kids and like those big steps that really get them through the door. It doesn't go into, transition throughout their whole lives. It's just that kind of portion. So where all like the great payoffs are pretty much. But yeah, it's amazing. And the girls who play that, oh my God, the girls are so good. Because it's a family of 5 and all of the girls are just amazing. I don't know how they do child actors. And especially I should have said before with Come On, the kid actor in that. I'm just like, I couldn't act to save my life, let alone like when I was a child. It's amazing. It's really got to take your breath away. But I really liked this film, so highly recommend. And then I watched The Final Member. This was recommended by my friend Jackie. She always likes to recommend the strange stuff. This one is about a male member, the penis. It's about a guy in Iceland, and he has a museum full of penises of every animal, and his biggest wish in life is to have the final member, which would be a human penis. So that's the journey he goes on. That's what the film's about. I was waiting because like when I saw people talking about this, I actually saw people on my Discord, which is part of my Patreon, talking about this, my friend Jackie. I thought it was going to have like more of like a twist or something, but that's pretty much it. It's very straightforward, so enjoy that. If you're into it. I thought it was an okay documentary, and obviously it's very much a window into a world I do not know much about, but because I don't collect anything. Such a stupid joke. But that's what you like about documentaries, right? It gives you a window into something you don't know. So I guess in that respect, it's good. I finally watched Power of the Dog, which I was not going to watch this film. I remember when it was out at the cinema. I'm pretty sure I was even invited to one of the premieres, and I said no in my state. It wasn't like, a big deal. But really sad I did, because I really, really enjoyed this movie. The movie is very different to what I thought it was going to be about. So it is about, on a ranch, a man and his new wife and her son come to live there, but this man's brother also lives there, and his brother is just a menace to society. He's just he's just an awful human. Anyway, he challenges them and just really messes with them. It's a very slow movie, and it can be broken down in many different ways. There's a lot going on, even though it's slow, but it's one of those films where it's all about what's not said instead of what's said. So it's all in the silent moments. It's all in the little tiny mannerisms and aspects. And yeah, it's like this building tension where no one talks about it. So it feels just dense. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic, and I was very surprised by it. It's a lot darker than I expected it to be. And the last movie I watched this month was Studio 666, which I just did a review on a couple days ago. So if you want to check that out, that would be awesome. It's spoiler free. The film is about Foo Fighters in a horror movie. It's a lot, so I can't wait to talk to you guys about that. If you haven't seen that video, go over and check that out. But I have a lot of TV shows to get into now, so brace yourselves. Get your pen and pad ready if it's not already. It does feel like my film list is shorter this month. It might not be. I mean, I watched a lot of Texas Chainsaw, so it might feel shorter on this video, but I can tell you what, I watched so much TV. Let's start off with Euphoria. I repeated. I went back and watched season 1 because I started watching season 2, and I realized I really wasn't up to speed with everything, and my friend Adam, he actually recommended doing that, so I went and did that. It was a lot more rewarding to go into season 2 knowing what's going on. I'm a big fan of Euphoria, and oh my gosh, has this season been wild. But also, I think I need to give people a push if you haven't watched it, because it's so well put together. It's something else. It's just a different level. It's a different plane. It's in its own bubble. It's untouchable. I think it's one of the best shows I've ever seen, to be honest. And that episode in, I'm not going to give spoilers, obviously, but that episode in season 2, I mean, which one? Because they're all insane, but with Rue, you know what I'm talking about. Oh my gosh, Zendaya is incredible. Anyway, so I went back and watched season 1. I highly recommend, if you have not watched it, just check out the first season and see what you think. Usually I wait until the end of a TV show, so it's all out, so I can binge it. And I would have loved to do that with this, because it is so tension building, and I feel like the storylines are so tightly interwoven with each character that it's easy to forget one aspect you're meant to be remembering at the end of another, for another week. there's a lot that happens in a week. And, you know, coming back into the show, sometimes I forget what cliffhangers and all that kind of stuff that's going on. So I do like to binge stuff, but there's this whole different aspect because Euphoria has such a cult following that you kind of have to watch it as it comes out. Otherwise, there's spoilers online, and you also don't get to be involved in those kinds of conversations because there's lots of memeing, and there's just lots of talk about it. So I find it really hard to avoid. So I do watch it week to week. But I am really loving season 2. So I highly recommend it. If you haven't checked it out and you think maybe it's not for me, it's about kids, you know, doing drugs. It's not, I mean, it is, but there's so much more to it, and there's so many different aspects because the characters are all so different and bring something. It's basically about a bunch of kids in high school, and all of their different problems and how they're interwoven into each other. And Rue, who is Zendaya, tells the story, narrates the story, and it definitely blends the line between fact and fiction with the way that they transition between the stories and talk about things, and they just aren't scared to express things in a different way. It's not very straightforward. It's not like a soap opera. It's just told in just a beautiful way. Yeah, it's really cool. It's kind of like blends surrealism in some points. They really just go all out aesthetically to paint the story. So it's not just, you know, the dialogue, and it's not leading you through and like holding your hand and walking you through. It's very fast, and yeah, you just feel like you're floating through this journey. I don't know how to explain it, but it's so well done. So I highly recommend checking it out. I watched The Woman in the Window. The Woman in the Window across from the lady in the house. No, I'm never going to get the title right. But I did binge watch the whole season with my Patreons, and yeah, really enjoyed it. I was really surprised. A lot of them guessed what was going to happen. If you don't know about this TV show, it's on Netflix. I think it's 8 episodes long, and they're half an hour each, so you're looking at about 4 hours. So we sat down and watched the whole thing because you just have to find out. It's a murder mystery that's kind of taking the mickey out of those murder mystery shows or movies, The Girl on the Train, The Woman in the Window, all that good stuff. It's Kristen Bell who plays the main character, and yeah, she isn't sure if she witnesses something, and then it kind of goes from there. It's just a lot of fun and silly, so I think that's kind of what we need sometimes, and if you are looking for that, I would recommend this show for sure. Okay, I had 2 fails this month. I do want to talk about this because I think it's important. I watch a lot of content, and I try and watch a lot of content for recommendations, and it's very hard for me to pack that into my week. I still work, I still do, you know, I still try and attempt to have a life, and I started watching All of Us Are Dead. This is a South Korean zombie show that's on Netflix, and I was not gelling with it. I have to say, I did the 3 episode rule. I watched 3 episodes and I just couldn't get past it, and I gave up on it. So my partner actually finished watching it without me, but I just wasn't gelling with the characters, and it wasn't really appealing to me. I'm not a huge zombie fan anyway, but it just wasn't gripping me. And then I saw that most of the episodes going forward were over an hour long. Some of them were an hour and 20 minutes. So I just felt like I didn't have time to spend if I'm not enjoying what I'm watching. So this is a rare time that I do that, but I actually stopped watching it. So I talked to people who had seen the whole series and told me if you aren't liking it by like episode 3 or 4, then you probably won't like the rest. So I appreciate that feedback. And then I did it again. This is like real life, you know, a lot of people don't admit to this. I watched Inventing Anna, and I'm sure everyone knows exactly how I felt when I watched that. I was so excited to watch that TV show for so long, because I followed the story about, you know, the woman that it all happened to, because it's based on a true crime about this woman who claimed she was a heiress and was like in New York City, and is meant to be this amazing true crime TV show about her life and who she really was and all that. Think about like The Woman That Was Never There, I believe that was the name of the movie. That was a really good movie. That's it's very different, but kind of the same thing, where someone's like, who really are they? So I thought it was going to be more along the lines of that, but it was just atrocious. It was really hard to watch. It felt like a Lifetime movie, which nothing is wrong with a Lifetime movie, but when it's a TV show and it's not getting straight to the point, I felt like it glazed over all of the aspects that were interesting about Anna's character and all of the things you really wanted to know about her, how she got into it, and then they focused on her relationships that you knew were fake anyway. I didn't like the direction. I didn't like anything. It just was not good for me. And so I gave up watching that as well. I got, again, maybe like 4 episodes in, and then I'm like, is anything actually happening? We're just like focusing on this weird stuff, spending hours on it. So I gave up. I know I'm a failure. Sorry. But there is one more show that I do want to talk to you about. I have not finished it yet. I have 3 episodes left and I will be finishing it. And it is Station 11. A lot of you have spoken to me about this, have read the book, loved the book, and said that the TV show deviates. And I can understand because there's so much going on. So this is a very strange TV show about, it's like in the future after a epidemic. So it's hard to watch. But it's about a girl, well, not really, it's about all different people's lives and how they intertwine moving forward in the world. I don't want to say too much because it is all about the details you learn along the way and how it weaves together. It's a very interesting show, and it took me until halfway through, like episode 5, to really actually not understand where it was going, but understand all the threads, because it does seem quite random, jumping character to character. And you're trying to figure out how much you're meant to actually know about what's going on. So it does take a while to kind of get the pieces together, or maybe it was just for me. But I have found it's just a very beautifully done show, and very different. It's very different to anything I've seen. It's more of a drama. It's like a sci-fi drama. It's just done in a very offbeat, kind of quirky way, where I don't think it's not intentionally like quirky or silly or funny, but it's just a little bit strange. And I guess that's like the future, the future is a bit strange. So I think it kind of fits that sci-fi mold really well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how it all comes together and how it ends. If you've seen Station 11, let me know if you liked it or if you didn't like it without spoilers down below. Wow, and that is everything I watched this month. Thank you so much for hanging around and getting through this video with me. If you did, and if you like these videos, make sure to give it a thumbs up. It does help me out. And I know I don't say that very often, but thank you if you do. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd love to have you here. We're gonna hit 100K sometime soon. And when we do, I'm gonna do a live stream, and I have this really fun thing I've got someone working on in the background, Gus, shout out, who's working, I'm just going to tell you, he's working on a wrap up of my last 7 years on YouTube, and I'm going to do a live react. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a little party. I can't wait. So thank you so much if you've been here throughout that whole journey. But yeah, we're getting close. So I really appreciate you. If you haven't subscribed, please do. My next video coming up will be what's coming up this month, depending on when you're watching this video, in March for VOD. So there's a lot of fun horror movies coming out. I'm very excited for this year. And horror is one of the only things we've still got to hang on to. So hold on tight. Let me know what you watched this month and what you loved down below. Let me know your recommendations. I always love to see them. And I'll talk to you all very soon. Stay safe and stay spooky. Bye, friends.